What is today's topic? Was it spoilers?
No.
Don't give out any spoilers. I'm still watching Mandalorian.
Yeah, we had this conversation.
Okay. I figured.
That's why I thought it would be funny. Just like, let's see this happen in real time.
I watched 3 more episodes today, so I'm getting close. I'm
Where
like
are you
halfway
at?
there. I'm almost at the end of the first season.
Oh, shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you love Star Wars, or you just kind of like
it? Around like in the 90s, I was a diehard Star Wars fan.
Okay.
I have like there's a giant tub of action figures at my parents' house.
Nice. That's great. There's a giant tub of action figures right behind me.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I love it. In school, I was, first of all, ADD and ADHD. There is no ADD anymore. Everything is ADHD. It was just kind of like a lie that ADD was a different thing. Everyone's hyperactive, but I think it's like some people just show it like more. Like some people are hyperactive on the outside, but everyone's pretty much hyperactive on the inside. I don't really know how that goes because this is all like a guy told me and I forgot most of it because I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, when I was in school, they said to my mom, your son is retarded. They're like, your son is retarded. You have to put him in a school for retarded children. I was in classes with kids who had Down syndrome. And so it was like, yeah, I mean, that's, look, whatever, but it's a complete misunderstanding of what's happening in the brain, which is they just didn't know how to use it. And I say the word retard, that was the word they used at the time.
Yeah.
Which is now, it's just like, every comedian has a joke about how it's like, that word has evolved and becomes the bad word and we just do a new word. But yeah, they didn't know how to handle it. I cheated on my SATs. We had I was in a class with kids and the teacher went, okay, see you all later. And we took the SATs, the 8 of us all worked out our questions on the board and we all got the exact same score and no one cared. They were just like, yeah, fuck it. Let those kids, whatever. Yeah. But I was the smartest one in the class. So everyone pretty much just got my score. So it didn't really help me at all.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when you think about school, like, we learn alone, we're graded alone, but in the real world, we're expected to know how to work well together. And like, that goes back to your point about working in a writer's room with people that are like, no, I want to be the funniest. Yep. It's like, well, that's conditioned into us in school and it actually works against our biology, whether we have ADHD or not. So
that's why I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah. My parents pulled me out of school because they diagnosed me as ADD and they didn't want to put me on a bunch of drugs. So they're like, well, he's just not getting enough attention. So they pulled me out of school. My mom taught me until I was like my sophomore year of high school.
Wow. My mom did a similar thing. She didn't pull me out, but after class, my teachers would say to my mom, they're like, you should have put this kid in a school with handicapped children. Because she didn't, they were like, it's okay that you don't get this, Greg. And they wouldn't really give me any extra attention or kind of listen. So I would come home and my mom would go, after my mom, an ER nurse working 12-hour shifts in her scrubs, would sit down with me and go, what did they teach you today? And I would go this. She goes, okay, what did you get? What did you not get? And she would re-teach me everything just to make sure I got it. And it was like, dude, to the mothers, huh? Salute, huh?
Yeah.
To the fucking moms out there, eh?
So do you pronounce your last name Stone?
No, my real last name is Coraluzzo. Stone is my mom's name. Stone was my mom's name, which I used because I was working in an ER and I heckled Jerry Seinfeld. So I wanted to, I thought he was going to burn me in comedy. So I started going by Stone. So it was like, yeah, but Coraluzzo. A lot of Z's, a lot of L's. Gavon, a bunch of fucking, yeah.
Caraluzzo.
Yeah, very Italian.
Yeah, I could talk about this ADD stuff all day too. So I'm gonna. Yeah, it's weird you brought it up because just yesterday I went through all of my old paperwork from like kindergarten through like 8th grade of just like IEP plans, evaluations, all of my like testing, like papers, results, and things like that. It was.
Can I ask how old you are about? I don't want to be rude, but I'm just wondering about what generation of school you kind of went through. I'm 39, so I'm just wondering how much.
I'm 34.
Okay, yeah. So they were, because like the younger kids now, my nephew, they get it. They're like, they seem to understand these things a little more. So I don't know where they were with you when you were kind of going through it, if they were just still kind of on the road of like, oh no, we're kind of getting learning disabilities.
Ritalin, they had special ed papers ready for me, but they didn't end up putting me in that. They just did IEP. Or SGI.
I think in Jersey we had a different name. That's just like you go into another class for a while.
Yeah.
I was on Ritalin. I think I might have been one of the first guys on Ritalin. I'd believe that. I just made that up. I don't know where that comes from. But ADD people have Ferrari brains with bicycle brakes. That's what that doctor, this doctor I talked to had said. Now, most people, when we were in school, you'd look at those kids and you'd go, they're handicapped. But as we got older, we went, no, we have fucking superpowers. I'm thinking 1,000,000 miles an hour about everything. So it's like,
and there's not much of a steering wheel either. It's not necessarily like it's a Ferrari brain, but it's like, yeah, no, trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to be clear on those things of like, we have this like weird thing of putting things in disabilities and not disabilities, but disabilities, all they really are is social constructs of how it fits into us. Is how do the disabilities fit in a social construct?
Now that we have more of an understanding of what's actually going on, like, you know, ADD, you can counterbalance that with Adderall, you know, so different parts of the brain are firing, and the same thing I'm sure at some point can be true of people who, you know, I mean, it's.
Well, that's the pedophilia is the worst kind of ADD is what I've been trying to say. No, but like if you can get a medication that would like, because that is, and then let's just be honest, like that is a bad thing because you're hurting people. It puts you in a position to hurt people. But they're not, what I hate is the word evil. We say evil because evil is just a cop-out word for a thing you don't understand. You go like, oh, it's evil, leave it. And it's like, no, it's not evil. It's a thing we don't understand. If we can try to figure that out, then we can do it. We can try to like fix it or whatever, or like give people medications and you know what I mean? Like the people who want to get their knees cut off. It's like, I don't know if we can get a drug that would allow them to not do that. Maybe they want it, maybe they don't. But, you know, maybe we just have these surgeries for people who can live without legs. Like, who's to say? I don't know who's to say what's good and what's bad.
Right.
I would say for most people, most people aren't evil. I'd say there's maybe possibly a small percentage of people that really do get off on just being the worst. That's possible, but I think most of it's nature or nurture. Either you're wired like that or someone abused you and now you abuse others because it's something that is psychological damage or something like that.
Steve, I 100% agree with you, but let me just clarify on what I mean by evil.
Yeah.
So what I mean by evil is it's a cop-out word that allows you to not have to look further. So to what you're saying is, I think that if you look close enough at anyone's brain, you can see why they do the things they do, right? So the people who are truly evil, which I would agree they are, like these bankers who want nothing but money, or I don't know, that's a random thing I said, but like
it's relevant.
You look at that and you go, oh, their brain chemistry is almost like they're so hyper focused on money that it does a thing. So it's like you can get a way to counteract, but it's like
an organism doing what organisms do.
Yes. So the DNA, everything is nature and nurture. Right. Yeah. So either their nature made them genetically fucked, so they become doing all this stuff. But the word evil just allows you to go, I'm going to look no further into why they do the things they do. We'll just put them in jail or kill them. And I go,
it's like free will too, you know, where the criminality, the whole aspect of like understanding if someone is prone to criminality and whether we should punish them ahead of time. Like, I think that's all bullshit. I think that, you know, they are all, you know, victims of circumstance.
You talking Minority Report stuff? Like,
you talking
Minority Report?
Yeah,
but that's the whole, I 100% agree of like, I mean, you know, I'm a big Sam Harris guy who did, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sam Harris and he has the whole, the free will thing is what you're going is that free will doesn't really exist. And, I mean, if you look closely enough at anyone, I always say that like, we're like these, what is the pinball machine, right? We are just a ball. The ball only goes to what it bounces off of, whether it's nature, nurture, your experiences. There isn't really many options for the ball. And I truly believe that we are really these balls that like, we're just fucking a bunch of balls. We're these balls that don't
looking
have
for a place.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I always say when people say like, you know, with a lot of like this progressive thinking comes and everyone goes, you need to not think this way. I go, no, you have privilege in the way that whatever in your life allowed you to think that way. If you lived in the South and in all of these things, you would think the exact same way these people think. If you lived in Nazi Germany and lived the life of a German soldier, you would be a German soldier. Stop acting like you're this special thing that is smarter than the options that anybody was given. It's like we're all just victims of nature and nurture and circumstance.
The proof there is like what, you know, like what people like Sam Harris talk about all the time, where they say, if you were born in India, you would not be a Christian.
Absolutely not.
I mean, obviously you could be, but the odds are that you wouldn't. And that alone, that thought experiment alone proves that people are victims of their own surroundings.
Right.
What was it? I mean, the Stanford prison experiment where they put people in those roles where you're the guards and these are the prisoners, and then after time, the people who were in the guard role were like treating these people like shit, even though they had done nothing wrong. They were just subject in an experiment. That's mind blowing to me. It makes so much sense.
It's absolutely true. And the thing that you were saying with India and the religion, I go, if when you look at countries that are mostly a certain religion, you go, well, if we had all these options, then every state would be like a billion different religions. But it's not. We all tend to be like, it's a Christian country. It's because it's like, why are there more Nets fans in New Jersey? This isn't really a great analogy, but it's like you're born there, so you have it and you do it, and everyone around you is it. But it's like they're not even a great team, but you're just a Nets fan because you're from Jersey. Also, I am aware that the Nets moved to Brooklyn about 20 years ago, but I'm not a big sports guy.
So there's like the hive mind, right? And that's why people all kind of like coalesce around a certain religion. But then you have people like when I learned these things like earlier on in my life, I would be like, well, I think I'm going to subvert these sort of tendencies on my own, like where I go, well, everybody's this. I don't want to be this because I feel like everybody's just doing it because everybody else is. So I'm going to consciously not do this unless I actually think it's right for me.
Yeah. And I did. And then other people when I started doing it, it was a lot more made fun of. Now it's a little more mainstream, probably maybe just in my bubble, but they do make figures for adults now. So it's like, it was a thing that was like, I was questioning. I was like, I couldn't get a date because they would see these toys in my room. So I'd have to take them all down, put them all back up when they would leave.
That's where 8th grade really killed that for me, where I was like, no more. And it all went away. No more Star Wars.
Yeah, what's the difference between that and a religion? If it's something that brings you comfort and something that like brings you answers, when you need them.
So I can answer that question if you'd like, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
The question between religion and action. If religion brings you happiness, I'm more than happy. I want you to be happy. But the problem then comes into the idea of believing it's real. And then when you believe it's real and then you start pushing that on other people, that becomes a problem. I've always said, I was with a girl whom I was in love with, who was born again Christian, and her whole thing was, like she needed, it's a great morality code. And I went, so is Spider-Man. But you know what they can do with Spider-Man? You can evolve it because you're not saying it really happened. Star Wars to me is a religion because you can look back at the old movies and go, yeah, man, the prequels did kind of suck, but we can do the Clone Wars, which will then make the prequels look better. We can evolve the mentality of it and grow with it, but you can't evolve religion. They figure out their little, the Pope will come up with these weird retcons like, hey, we're doing this now. But it's like, but you still got to go back to those books and go, those books don't work. You got to reboot Bibles, and you can't when you say it happened, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I try to parallel it to being like an employee handbook. Like the rules have changed. Like the state of the work. Like you're not, with computers and with like AI and automation, like you can't go by the same rules as when it was a factory, like where people were working the jobs. Things have changed. Absolutely, and that's and that comes also back to like like pedophilia right now is a horrible thing, but it's a horrible thing because we learned the effects that has on the mind of a child. Mm-hmm. They didn't know that in the Greek. I don't know that they didn't know that, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have the exact whole grasp on how all of that shit fucks, rape and all that. Like, I don't know that people realize, and maybe it didn't have those effects back then because it was so prevalent. Mm-hmm. But like to this society now, you rape somebody, you fuck their whole life. You fuck them.
I think trauma was just a reality of living. And if you didn't experience it, you were very lucky back then. Right? A normal day where nothing happens was more traumatic than one where there was like, oh, my entire encampment was slaughtered. Have a whole guilt trip. You'd have a guilt trip on that day. So
you make a joke about a guy losing a child today, you're getting thrown off stage. You make a joke about that in the Renaissance times, they're like, yeah, that's a Thursday. I lost 5 of my 10 kids. You know what I mean? So this is a fantastic book, Sapiens. I would love to read it. Now that I'm back on Adderall, turned out I can read now. So I'm like, what are all these books? I've read like 3 books in my life, but now that I'm on Adderall, I'm like, give me all the books. I want to read.
Oh, it's so good. It's a look at it's a very commonsensical look at anthropology in a way that kind of questions the way things have been, through a look at just like shared reality and shared, like, that's what keeps society going is the fact that, like, oh, this piece of paper means $1 and you can get these things with it. Right. And it's made up, but we all agree that it's valuable. But this book makes a point that King Edward of the First of England in the 12 and 1300s, they had, they were the kings. So like best medical help, which at that time were just like leeches and let's cut shit off. And they had 16 kids and only 5 of them made it past 20. So it's like back then it was just like, it's another kid, not a big deal. But now the construct has changed, and that's more of a devastating, like, you can't bring that up to somebody who lost somebody.
Absolutely. I try to nail down there is no such thing as right and wrong. There is just what we all agree on is best for everybody. And that is going to constantly evolve and change. And you have to be okay with that, especially like now that technology is moving faster, we are moving faster as a society. So you're going to have people that are like 10 years, for 10 years ago did a lot of horrible shit that may not necessarily have known was as horrible as they do now, as technology moves faster and faster. Right. I think, I don't know.
Right. It changes. I mean, you can look at the Christopher Columbus example, like 20, 30 years ago, we were like, Columbus Day, he discovered America. And there were a few people that were like, hey, this guy wasn't great. And now it shifted.
And then we look at the people who refuse to let go of Columbus and we're like, well, you're a racist. It's like, no, that's a 50-year-old man. Like, you got to understand, like, there is a part of society that is going to take a little bit longer to catch up on some of this stuff. And then there's part of my society that I'm like, I don't give a shit about Christopher Columbus. I never did. He discovered America. Great. That's a privilege. Someone allowed him to get on a boat and do a thing. We would have eventually got there anyway. It's like, I don't know. That's not really a big opinion I have, but I'm just like, I don't care.
You know, it's really weird. You know what you just made me think about, what I realized? And he came over and he took land and he raped a bunch of people. But this is the thing. What's weird about that is we single that out. Like, that's the one time that ever happened, even though I'm willing to bet that happened on different levels, both in the old world all the time, both taking land and raping people. And then also the Native Americans did that to each other. All people did that. You can't be like, no, they're innocent. No, all people took land from each other. It was just intra-racial on that isolated continent until white people came over and did it. Might have done it worse. Might have, I don't know. But I'm just saying, I think it's kind of funny how just because there was a racial barrier and our continental barrier broken, that it's like this new exceptional thing. I just realized this. I'm not saying like, I like when you go when you're like, I think, because I have a bad tendency of hypothesizing and then sounding authoritative about it. But really it's just me going, I think there might be a seed of truth to this.
To bring it back to ADD, the mind is going so fast that we are just going to throw things out there. And so throw those things out there and let's talk about them. And if they're wrong, I don't know if they're wrong, but I think what you're saying is actually a great point, which I think in today's society gets me very annoyed, is we like to say like, white people did this, black people did this. And you go, no, people are doing all of this. And you're picking the worst categories to put them in, right? It's like, go ahead, Steve.
I thought of the good exception to this, though. It did spark a genocide.
Who?
That is the qualifier, the Columbus. The idea that was the unique grievance, or the egregious thing that happened, was the genocide that it sparked. That in itself was bad.
I'm not saying that
or exceptionally
a good guy, or Hitler was a bad guy too, but Hitler wasn't a bad guy because he was German, or because he was Italian. I don't know what Hitler was. He was an Italian. I don't know why I just thought he was Italian. Don't ostracize people. It's not a good look.
Right.
I think it's better to bring people in than to push them aside.
Yeah, you can't force people. You're not going to get people on your side by ostracizing them. You gotta connect with them first, and then build.
It's my biggest problem. I'm just like, you're fucking stupid.
It's so easy
because it feels so good, and it's like you're like Well, you assume that people think the way you do, where you're like, because if someone called me stupid, I would try to be not as stupid.
Yeah.
But other people do the opposite. They're like, no, I'm doubling down.
Right.
No,
Dude,
it's bad.
Because what they know is they know they are not stupid. So then when you say they're stupid, they go, oh, well, this guy's wrong about everything. And that's my big problem with calling Trump supporters racists, because most of them know they aren't. They may be doing some racist things. And a lot of that is like racial by proxy. It's like, they're just like, they do some things that are racist that aren't necessarily like hating people. It's just like,
it's relatively benign.
Right. Or like, like they push, even if it's like congressional, it's like, I think that some laws aren't, whatever. I don't want to get into that whole shit, but it's like, by calling them racist, they know they're not racist. So then they go, you think we're all racist. So if you're wrong about that, what else are you wrong about? And then nothing else you say will ever get through to them. So
they have a binary approach to what racism is. Either they're not racist or they're completely racist. They don't realize that racism is like an ideology, not just hate.
It's a wide
it's
spectrum.
Like a belief, an underlying subconscious belief that some people behave differently than others based on their racial makeup. And it's like, no, there's a whole spectrum of racism, and they need to understand that sometimes you're not ostracizing them as completely
but is that spectrum something we should be shitting on people for? Let's bring up a great example of that, right? My stepdad was a cop, and he was definitely, by definition, you could say he was a racist, but I don't believe he was, because he was so full of hate that to call him racist would mean he liked another race more, which would be taking hate away from him. And so, no, every glass of water was filled with hate. But as a cop in a low income area, you see certain people doing the same things. It becomes part of your like defense mechanism to go, and maybe he's not categorizing them all the same or whatever, but these cops have some kind of intuition, which I know a lot of people hate cops, but I don't hate anybody. I just look and you go, is that racist, or is that just, sorry, let me rewind. Different example, one that more people can understand. Being a waiter. When I was a waiter, there were people who I don't know if you guys were waiters, but there was racism wildly rampant in that community. And it wasn't hate over, you go, do not sit me with black people, do not sit me with Europeans, do not sit me with these people because we know they don't tip. That is racist. But to some extent, now there's a little bit, you can go both ways. To some extent, you'd go, it is cultural, like, okay, there's the cultural things or whatever. So, but they knew how to get money, and it wasn't to get sat by those people. And then the second part of that was you'd be, man, I'm so scared now that what I just said is shitty, that I'm like losing my train of thought on this.
No,
I'm
I'm with you.
Thought crimes. Right. Talk about this stuff.
Right. So I start to go like, I get this, and we had a black guy I worked with at TGI Fridays that was fired because he said, do not sit me with black people. Now, that being said, I had that mentality. Sure, I go, geez, I'm probably not going to get a good tip from these people. But I never changed the way I acted towards them, right? So I had this customer come in one time, black guy, dreads, big clothes, white t-shirt, like classic, like, what you'd go, shit, I'm going to get, this guy is a gangster or whatever. I don't see, I'm so scared to say with words anything, but it was like, at the time I was younger, you'd see this, you go, fuck. Anyway, he sat me with him. I was super cool with him. Leaves me a $50 tip on a $20 bill. And I was like, dude, I think you gave me too much. And he goes, no, every time I come here, people give me shitty service because they think I don't tip. I'm a barber. I own my own business. I make a ton of money, and people treat me that way. So there is that.
I'm so afraid of starting that with knowing you were going to end that way.
What'd you say? No.
Yeah.
I was afraid of what I was saying, that I forgot where I was going, and this is where I was going, which was the flip side of the coin is when you start looking at people and treating them different, you don't give them the opportunity to beat your expectations. And then people also say, well, if you think this way about me, then maybe I am this way, which as a guy with ADD, I go, you think I'm retarded? Well, then maybe I am retarded. And then I start not believing in myself. So it's like, yes, some of these stereotypes do work to an extent, but when you start treating those stereotypes a lot of that way, you'll end up, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
The thing with Trump supporters is I might hate them, the ones that I don't know. Right. But all the ones that I do know, I love them so much. and I accept them. And so therefore I have to, by proxy, accept all of them, at least, assuming that they are good people generally, which I know from these people that I do know.
Dude, and to what you're saying and how fucking kind of beautiful that is, but it's like, that's what a lot of people do with race. And like, once they start meeting Black people or Puerto Ricans, you always go, well, I love these guys. And you go, but the other ones that the news sources is talking about is like, well, the news sources are talking about Twitter, like the outspoken crazy people. Mm-hmm. But it's like
outliers.
Yeah. And everyone you get to know, it goes back to the evil thing we brought up, which is like, if you get to know anyone intimately enough, you can kind of understand them. And then you can either learn to love them. And if my rule is just like, I'm going to love everybody if you're poisonous for me, I separate myself from you. It's like, well, I'm not going to be around you because you're poisonous to me. But it's like, yeah, my mom is a ER nurse who ran a bunch of ERs, one of the smartest women you'll ever meet in your life. But she moved to Pennsylvania, lives in the mountains, and became a conspiracy theorist. And I love her, but she doesn't turn Fox News off. And it kind of warped her thinking. She got older. And like, so now what do now what do you do? It's like, when you guys are talking about, I hate them, not you guys, but like people, I go, you're talking about my mother. And I love my mother, but some shit got in through one of the biggest media sources on the fucking planet. So like, I don't even necessarily fault her. Like, she's working against the giant machine.
So. Media can be very bad. I mean, it can be good, but it can be very bad. And it's not one or the other. It's just, there's lots of sensationalism, and that's the problem. And a lot of just warping of reality. People just don't go out and experience these things for themselves and go to these places. Our cities aren't burning.
Well, dude, comedy. Sorry, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
My mom was like, come to Pennsylvania. I know New York is burning. And I looked outside.
My dad was the same way.
I'm like,
all burning.
Is okay. It's like, we're actually okay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. My mom, I was like, just be careful with Antifa. And I was like, I don't know if I actually even know any. Like, I don't even, whatever, I lost my train of thought, but Jesus Christ, it was so hitting me on the fucking.
No, you're Aunt Tifa. Say hello to her. That's it.
Yeah. You need to, there needs to be a boogeyman at all times.
Dude, you just said my wife's name is Tita. We have a niece and nephew. That is such a funny. I'm going to send you $35 if I can start doing Aunt Tita jokes as Antifa.
Stephen Dashmers.
Yeah. I will flash that on the screen. I'm ready to go.
The
Battle of Aunt Tita?
Yeah.
But it's just that misinformation, and then the lack of willingness to ask questions and dive further into that. Where questions are conditioned out of us.
Can I throw a thing? So I've remembered my thought.
Throw a thing.
And you'd let me know when we're done. It's so funny. You were like, hey, man, plan for an hour. But if it goes long, we'll do 2 or something. And I was like, man, I can only do an hour. And they're like, oh, this got out. We've just been talking and I don't see myself coming to a stop.
Yeah, that's why I include that in the email. Like,
I didn't believe that was going to be a thing. But no, you guys are great to talk to. So I didn't. But sometimes you do podcasts that are fucking painful and you're like, I gotta go. But to the news thing, I noticed it in comedy first because I started seeing any comedian who had a hot button issue would get more views. And then you started seeing the news change that way, where we were only clicking on things that made you scared or emotional. And then I saw it very early. I went, this is going to be a problem because capitalism works in the way of, we refine everything to the quickest path. And it's like, if clickbait news is the way, then every news source is going to be like, you need to listen to this now. People are dying. New York's on fire. And if there's nothing to say, then they're not going to get clicks and they're going to be turned into clicks. And now we are living in the post figuring that out. Like, it's a fucking scary place to live.
Mm. Yeah. I think, we've got to dabble in the wrong way to do things to figure out that it's the wrong way to do things first, but you can't sit in it for too long. Otherwise it becomes the way to do things. And
right.
Yeah, there's enough people that are calling it out too. There was a big story about one of the executive producers from MSNBC. She left the network because a lot of her stories that were focused on, like, especially during the Black Lives Matter rallies, like 95% of them were peaceful, and she wanted to do a story about that, but the network was like, no, we gotta find more videos of cop cars on fire, like find more people like hitting, like fighting each other in the streets. We need views, we need clicks, we need that advertising dollar.
We need to peg every Trump supporter as a racist and militant, and we need to peg every super left person as AOC, or not even that, but even worse than that.
Trying to
like
destroy
Antifa.
America.
Antifa on command.
And we didn't start classing these people at Antitas. They're all Antitas.
Yeah.
But it's like, and that's right now people are giving Apple issues. Apple is, I don't know if you saw this, but recently Apple in Facebook are going at each other because Apple is starting to do more privacy things. And Facebook is like, no, stop. And now everyone's like, yeah, well, fuck Apple too, because they're this. And I'm like, yes, I worked for Apple. Everyone's bad. But let's let them start moving towards a better place, at least with some of the, like, if they're going to start helping our privacy, well, let's let them do that. It's like, let's not just make them do animal things because they're animals already, but it's like, let's also let people fix stuff as well, to some extent, to what we were saying before. Last month, I did one of my first out of quarantine shows, and I was out of practice. I'm not like, we're in quarantine, So I have a joke that I hate. And whenever I hate a joke, I'll usually just allow a lot of crowd work to seep into it so I can play around and not have to get into that joke. Mm-hmm. The joke is simple. It's about when I used to work in an ER, and a lesson I learned is that at 3 a.m, you get a ton of people who come in with objects in their vaginas or buttholes. And that's just the thing. And I always bring it, and it goes into a story, which is fine. I don't love the joke. It's just very old. But whenever I have nurses in the crowd, I'll always go into that, because then you get to, I'm like, what have you seen? Right. And then they love hearing, they love saying their thing. And then you can riff on that. And hopefully I don't have to get to the joke. But I said, as I've said a billion times ago, all right, a bunch of nurses come in, and I'm like, all right, what's the craziest thing you've ever seen in someone's body? And she goes, cancer. And I went, it was just like, what the fuck, lady? Yeah. You always get the same answers. You always get gerbil, toy car. She said cancer. And then the crowd a little bit turned on her. They're like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. And then I thought she was joking, because I was like, yeah, that's a hilariously dark joke. That is the craziest. Like, I guess that's the worst thing, cancer. And she goes, I wasn't joking. What is worse than cancer? And then I was like, oh, fuck you, lady. It was like, that's when I had to turn on her, because at some point it's like, well, at some point, lady, you understand where you are, right? Like, I get that you might have just thrown out cancer because that was your thought. But when I gave you the out, you should have taken it. And she didn't. And then I was just like, lady, what the, you're bringing up, and we all knew that she was a nurse for children. So we knew she was talking about child cancer. Jesus. So it was like, what are we doing here? And at that moment, I didn't make fun of myself a little bit. I kind of went in on her a little bit to be like, you're like, what are we doing here? I don't know where I was going with any of that. I just started talking and then enjoying the words coming out of my mouth. But she was like, I wish that I was a little bit tighter. Like, when you saw that Cellar clip, that was Greg in his prime. It was like, it was last year. It was, I'm working the Cellar every night, just feeling confident. This other clip was me in a quarantine for 6 months, doing 45 minutes in a casino to a bunch of to a crowd that just fucking blows. And then this lady throws out this wild thing, and I was just like, fuck you, lady. And then I kind of turned on her, and I don't know if I have a video of it. I don't know if I'll release that clip, but I was like so mad at myself for not being able to kind of use the skills I've learned to save it. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you look at that old clip, and it's like, no, I do have that in me. Like, going back to what you said about the wins versus, you're rusty. Yeah, it's rusty and it's fine. But it was also like, when you're in a gig you don't want to be at, and then they do that, you just go like, how much time do I have left? I don't want to be. And the crowd wasn't necessarily on my side. Like, they were like, well, cancer is a bad thing. And I'm like, well, you all suck. Yeah, no. I mean, to an extent, they did put that in themselves.
Yeah. Was she a smoker?
Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, the kid was.
I actually have this is a joke I'll never tell to an audience, but because
put it on a podcast where we'll exist forever.
I don't think there's anything wrong with this. I don't think there's anything really, really intellectually wrong with this joke, but you can say it either way. But the easiest way is to say is, the first time I ever saw an Indian person, I thought to myself, God must have hit the Italian button twice on accident.
Yeah.
See, you guys are afraid to laugh at that, but that's okay.
No. But I thought that was funny, But I will say, when you're on a podcast and someone's telling a joke to you, I get suddenly in my head about the amount of laughter I will disperse.
Oh, dude,
But, it's hilarious.
I get
it's
it.
hilarious.
It's
I totally get it. No.
Yeah.
That you're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
totally.
That's a thing I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy is about surprise. So if you're letting someone know a surprise is coming, they're like, okay, where's this surprise? And it's like, you really got to fucking hide then. So it's I'm not telling you how to do comedy, but it's like a funny thing on podcasts that people don't. People go like, okay, you're funny, man. Be funny. And you go, no, comedy's about surprise. So now I can't surprise you. You're waiting.
Right.
You know,
That's why
like,
I hate, hey, tell us a joke. Tell me a joke.
Tell me a joke. Yeah. It's like, sure, man. Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. It's funny. I didn't know until I got into comedy. I didn't know any Jewish people, and then met Jewish people, and then learned that I'd known Jewish people my whole life. I just thought they were Italian. And I was just like, I was like, Amy Fishman? I thought she was Italian. You're like, Fishman, she's Jewish. And I went, I had no idea. Because everyone I grew up with was either Puerto Rican, black, or white. And so it was just like, we were like, all the white people were put together. And I just thought all of the white people who looked like me, had giant noses, were Italian. And it was like, no, those are Jewish people. And I was like, I didn't realize. And it's like just like a silly, dumb thing.
Some people aren't conscious of the fact that they're like, they're going in and they're trying to, they think that they can just make anything funny, like, or that they like, but no, you've signed up to make most people laugh. If you want to just be very niche, go make your friends laugh. Right. But you are trying to appeal to a larger audience now, so do it.
Well, that was the thing with alt comedy and mainstream comedy, right? Is a lot of this alt comedy was very funny for very specific people. And look, I came up in the alt scene, but at some point, that stuff you're saying is still funny, but you need to figure out a way to show a mainstream audience why that's also funny. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they're a lot more accepting to that. But if someone is drunk and you show up on a stage dressed as a mattress and you're doing mattress bits on what kind of comedy a mattress would do, in a comedy club, people are just gonna go, wait, what the fuck am I watching? Right?
Yeah.
But is Kristen Shaw do this, by the way. Kristen Shaw came on stage as a mattress and did mattress comedy. And it was like hilarious. But in UCB, we're expecting that, right? But if you take the mainstream comedian, bring him to UCB and he starts doing that, he's going to bomb because you think you're special in the alt room because you're open to new things, but you're not. You're open to what is available in this room, which is weird and crazy. So when the mainstream guy comes in and he bombs, it's because you're like, he's not supposed to be here. And the reality is you're playing the same game that the mainstream club is. So it's and good comedians know, because you see Patton Oswalt. I watched him at UCB and then do Caroline's the next day. And it was like, they can do both. So it's like figuring out how to show those people you're looking at, how to bring them on the ride with you, whatever there is, subverting their expectations and doing all that shit. It's like, and for your own self, if you ever this guy, Dr. Howler, he's the guy I interviewed this guy on my YouTube page. If you have ADD, and I'm not promoting myself, I just did this for comedians. You should watch the video I had of me interviewing this doctor about ADD. There was so many little nuggets that I got that really improved the way I see my mind. That's why I brought up ADD a million times. I'm so like, it's like I'm falling in love. I didn't know that I was not an idiot. So it's like, I'm just trying to get comedians to watch it so that they stop hating themselves, or watch his TikTok videos. Cause he does amazing 1 minute TikTok videos that just kind of explain ADD to people who really don't get to see psychiatrists and there's not a lot of good psychiatrists who even know about this stuff. A lot of them are just fucking bullshitting. But this is like the leading guy in ADD. I can't think of his fucking name right now.
Definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, I'd like to too. Yeah,
it's really huge. I'll send you a link
channel.
In the email of the of his name, and I'll even link you the video. But I hate to push a video that I was in because I swear to God, it's not for promotion. I just really think that comedians and artists who have ADD is like, you just, even if you watch 2 minutes of it and just start going on that guy's TikTok, it's like, it was so beneficial for me to talk to this guy. So if you guys, I know you guys were talking about having it. It's like,
no, I do. Yeah, I want to see it.
Can't suggest that guy enough.
First thing, set up a doctor's appointment, get back on ADD medication. There's just so many things I've been working on lately too. It's like, man, what took me so long to land on that, like the idea for that project or what to do? And it's like, oh, that's why, because you haven't been taking your fucking medication.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to see things through anymore.
Yeah,
so
Jeremy, it's not your fault. It's not. Say it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Not my fault. I haven't talked to my doctor in like months.
Yeah, but that's just part of it, man. It's okay. Just, try to get yourself back in. But it's like, yeah, dude, it's like we really beat ourselves up, and it's because that's part of your mentality. The ADD mind is prone to abusing itself. So like, don't be,
That's
don't
not
be so
your
mean to
ADD
yourself.
mind, Jeremy. That's Jeremy with the J.
Just lashing out at people for like making just simple jokes. Like I got off stage after doing a show, and I thought like, oh, I bombed so hard and blah blah blah, and I was beating myself up, and apparently I did actually have a pretty good set, but the first thing somebody said to me was, dude, what happened up there? And I just was like, fuck this dude. Like I was so
Right.
and like I just the whole night just fucked with me so hard, and I normally wouldn't even like I would have laughed that off, and even if I bombed, I still would have laughed that off in any other scenario. But I think it's just because I've just been so harsh on myself lately that.
Can I say something to you, Jeremy, about what you're saying? Because I've been in that situation. Is it okay?
Yeah.
When you truly believe in yourself, and you know this, when you truly believe in yourself, really believe and know that you're good, those words don't hit you. So what we're seeing here is just you need to start looking at what you've achieved in this business and what you do and how funny you are, and knowing that you are good and you are great at this. And so those words, if someone said to you and went, you're not a guy with a beard, you'd go, I mean, that's crazy. I'm a guy with a beard. Right. So like, if someone were to come up to you and say, you're not, even if they said to you, you're not funny, you need to truly know that you are. And I'm talking to you, you are. So shut the fuck up. So it's like, you have to so badly understand that whenever those people say that to you, it doesn't even mean anything anymore, because it's like saying you don't have a beard when you clearly have a beard. Well, you know what I mean?
Also, too, the person felt inclined enough to go, hey, what happened up there? As like a joke.
Right.
To a point where you're like, oh, no, this guy's clearly funny, and funny enough where I can kind of bust his balls a little bit.
Right. I mean, we should also know that guy should know not to say that. It's like, there is also that. But, comedians are fucking, we sometimes because we have our own insecurities, so we like to jab and do little things too. But that has nothing to do with you. That guy's other issue. And I don't mean to say, like, I'm not saying you don't have confidence, and I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I just know where I was. And like when I would get off stage and someone would say something like that, it all comes down to my own self-doubt. So how do you fix that? You can't fix the world. You can only fix your self-doubt. So it's like, you got to start knowing that you are good. Even if you're also, sorry, one other piece on this. What I said about the gay thing was like, once I realized I wasn't gay, I could say and do whatever I want. Once, you should also understand that you should say to yourself, what would it take for me to quit comedy? And I bet you a lot of us would answer the same thing. I'm never going to quit. Okay. So if you're never going to quit, then who gives a shit what people like? Who cares if you're a hack? Who cares if you're not good? You're never going to quit. So once you realize I'm never going to quit, people can't say anything to you anymore, because you go, I don't care. I can only do the best I can, and I'm not going to quit. So it's like, anything they say, it no longer means anything anymore, because it's like, even if I'm not good now, I'm not quitting. So I'll just be not good for the rest of my life, and that's fine. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of like truly going into that inner soul of yours and filling it with concrete, and finding those holes, which is lack of confidence, and just filling them with concrete. Fill up those little holes with concrete. So
Confidence-crete.
The concrete. Yeah, the concrete. Yeah. Sorry, I'm still doing the podcast. But I, as a guy who've been doing comedy for 20 years and struggled 15 years with confidence, it's like my main goal to talk to people who have, and it's 90% of comedians who have confidence issues, and just go like, hey man, your number one priority is not writing jokes. Your number one priority is believing in yourself. You need to do that first and then do the jokes, because it's like, even if the jokes are good, if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to be able to sell them. So right. It's like, and a lot of it has to do with ADD. So a lot of it is kind of that, and listening to Larry, who's screaming at you.
Self-critical. Yeah.
When you started talking about that, I nearly started busting out in tears, just because like I could relate to that so much.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. You DM'd me too. You're like, this is so good.
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Good shit.
I thank you so much, guys. Thanks for letting me go on these wild rant. I don't have any children yet, so it's nice.
You can't laugh at that.
Special thanks to Golden Ox Studio. You can find Golden Ox Studio for all your podcasting needs at goldenoxstudio.com. Hit up Jeremy. He is fantastic to work with, a professional. He makes podcasting easy. And if you've been kicking the tires on starting your own podcast, definitely give Golden Ox Studio a look. If you'd like to weigh in on today's topic, follow us on Twitter at YouCan'tLaughPod, or like us on Facebook at You Can't Laugh at That, and tell us how you did laugh at today's topic or how you didn't. This is all about the conversation, is what I'm saying. All right. Bye.